And he basically restructured my entire business and said, this is how you run a business from the corporate level. And this is how you build org charts. This is how you build SOPs. Never did any of that stuff before then, right? And he said, this is how you do it. And this is how every company does it. But the social media thing ended up happening in 2020 when the pandemic struck. I didn't have a TikTok, I didn't have a YouTube, I didn't have anything. All I had was an Instagram with like 10,000 followers. And, I just remember looking at the world and I was like, what can I do with my time? And eventually I just realized that I thought social media was going to grow even bigger than it currently was, because I thought people were going to be kind of locked in their house with nothing to do, kind of looking for ways to make money. And it turned out to be, I underestimated that that theory. It was like gangbusters. So, I started making videos, kind of just like trying to figure it out. And soon enough, like I just start gaining momentum and like everything's growing and growing and growing. And, as you mentioned today, 2 years later, it's like, I think there's 1.5 million followers across social. And, we have a full production staff and studio and, just making content, every single week. And in turn, it leads to all the businesses growing as well. So it's just like this win-win. We get to help a lot of people making videos, and then in turn, a lot of those people buy our products, and then it just kind of keeps cycling over and over again.
So you make it sound so easy. So you just say, hey, somebody asked me a question. I pop up a company.
Yeah.
How do you do that though? So effortlessly, it sounds like, as far as finding people, I mean, you got to hire people, you have to, understand the framework. Talk us through your process a little bit.
Good question. So on the entrepreneur side of things, my business acumen has really developed over the last few years. I think when you're first starting a business, you kind of always start as a hustler, right? And you don't know how to do anything. You don't know how to run an organization. It's just you hustling, making money. And so like, that's how I was for years. It was just like, hey, find more deals, worry about the rest later, right? And didn't have any bookkeeping, didn't know what I was doing on the tax. There was no strategy other than get deals, make money. And I think that's fine for people when they start. Like whatever generates revenue is how your business stays alive. But eventually in 2019, when things changed, 2019, I had the first time I ever lost money flipping. I had a bunch of flips go bad. I didn't lose money for the year. We still made money overall for the year, but like, it was the first time I ever like took a punch in the face, because up to that point, I'm like, dude, everything I touch turns to gold, man. This is great. And it took getting punched in the face to really change my ways. And so I remember, of all the bad flips combined, we lost about $500,000 on those deals. And I was like, okay, we need to reevaluate, why did this happen? And I started to look at my business and I realized like, well, we're not tracking our cash flow. We're not tracking, our hold times for our contractors or anything. We're not tracking how often we go over budget. We're relying on a hot market to push values forward. And we're just creating all these bad habits. And that's why we lost. And it's also too why we almost ran out of cash, even though we had made millions, because I just wasn't tracking cash flow or anything. And so I realized I had a problem and I didn't know how to solve it, because nobody ever told me how to truly run a business like the right way. It was just hustling and making revenue. And so, I owe so much of this to one of my mentors. His name is Gary Harper. He ended up coming to my office for 3 days. At the time, it cost me like $17,000 to bring him in. And he basically restructured my entire business and said, this is how you run a business from the corporate level. And this is how you build org charts. This is how you build SOPs. Never did any of that stuff before then, right? And he said, this is how you do it. And this is how every company does it. And so I ended up going through that. I realized how to hire people the right way, personality test, creating clearly defined KPIs and things for them to hit. And it all made sense, right? And so I did that in my house living business. And, we ended up, having our best year in 2020. And then 2021, we had we doubled. And during that time, I realized like, okay, this whole thing would apply to other businesses as well. And so, when I built my tax company, same deal, right? Who's the CEO? Who's the COO? Here's the departments, who's in charge of what, everything, right? And what I soon learned was, as I was scaling all these businesses simultaneously with the same process, I realized every business is the same. They all have the same issues of, hey, how are we generating leads? How are we closing leads? How are we servicing and fulfilling a product, right? How do we hire the people to get the people to service and do all these things, right? It's all the same. And so it pretty much gave me the confidence that anytime I wanted to start a new, like basically I created an SOP for starting a business. So it's like every business we start, it goes through the streamlined process. Okay, what's the name? What's the logo? What's our mission statement? Who is our avatar or demographic that we're trying to hit? What's the marketing plan going to be? What are the people we need to hire, right? And so it's like now every business we start kind of hits the ground running pretty good because we've done it so many times at this point that it's like, I don't want to say like I've started an incubator, but it's kind of what it's become. And now what's interesting is at the current level, I had to create like essentially a parent company now because we have all these companies. And at the parent company level, we basically do everything for the companies that they would have to otherwise do themselves. And it takes away from them like really doing what they do well. So for instance, at the parent company, I have a full-on IT department for all of our tech. I have a media buyer. I have a sales manager. I have our HR. I have legal, finance, all these things that every single business has to do, whether they know it or not. We've streamlined at the top level. And so now every time we want to hire somebody, you know, my business just submits a request to HR, the person is magically delivered to them, right? Whereas other businesses have to struggle so hard to like go fill voids, right? And so the CEO or the COO is like out there hunting for people. And then that takes away from them focusing on the business and whatever it is, because they're busy doing all of these tasks that kind of my parent company does. And so, you know, all of the businesses I own, whether I have partners or not, they just love it because it takes so much time and like stress away from them. And they can now focus on growth and doing the things that are going to drive more revenue, more customer fulfillment, more satisfaction, and everything else. So it sounds easy and it's happened really fast, but let me tell you, it is not. It took a lot of time to do all this. And then it took a lot of time to find the people that can like really execute these things at a high level.
One of the challenges, and that, by the way, Ryan, that's incredible that you've been able to build those layers and these companies after figuring out this structure. I mean, that's such a valuable lesson. So every business has single points of failure, and I'm just curious, inside your organization, how have you been able to kind of offset those single points of failure to put yourself in a less risk adverse situation? You talked about it a bit with your parent company. I'm just curious, if there's other methods that you're using to kind of help offset that, because that's one of the things obviously that keeps any business owner up at night is, oh, this guy's gone or this thing happens and we're in a really tight spot. And I don't know if I have the time to jump in there and take it over.
100%. So good question. I am constantly thinking about how we could get screwed. For lack of a better word, I'm like, man, okay, to your point, right? If this person dies tomorrow or leaves, or if, you know, this way that we market no longer works anymore, what are we going to do? Right. Is there any third party service we use that like our business is dependent on? If like they go out of business, are we screwed? Right. So I'm always like thinking worst case scenarios. And I think that has made us very resilient, and able to like pretty much go through all the bumps that happen along the way in business, but be kind of not unaffected, but like very smooth through them. Whereas other companies, like they collapse. So I think it first comes with identifying, like you said, places where you're weak. I remember, just to give an example of house flipping, when I first got started, I only bought off the MLS. That was the only way I found deals, right? Then I learned about wholesalers and I only bought from wholesalers. And then I soon learned like, man, there's only so many I can buy. And these guys are like now getting crazy money on the MLS for their houses, and wholesalers are getting crazy money. What am I going to do? And so I start, direct marketing to sellers. And so it just was like this evolution of adapting, but also being resilient in that I'm not going to depend on wholesalers only to get deals. Because if I do, we might go bankrupt, right? Or we're not going to get the deals flow that we want, so always being in control of that. Now, like I think about, this is a big thing I think about now, is like me, like, okay, where am I the source of failure? And within the day-to-day of the companies, I've pretty much removed myself from all of them, so it's like, I'm not needed to go run my education company. Like we've got leaders and coaches and everybody else. That thing runs without me. Same thing with the house flipping. I don't go on appointments. I don't need to underwrite the deals. I trust my team to do what they do. Right. And so it's great on the day-to-day side, but where I know a big hit would be is if I died tomorrow on the marketing side, what happens? Because if I am the one driving traffic with my social media, what happens? And some companies would be affected more than others. And some were currently in plans to not have succession, but like just, be prepared so that, if I choose to stop making videos tomorrow, which I don't plan to, but, in the event, how can we keep these things going? How can my employees still have jobs? How can this company stand without me? So like, for example, like the biggest one would be Future Flipper, my real estate education company. It's like, okay, that obviously I am the face of it. And so people watch my videos, they want to learn how to invest in real estate. And so they go there. How do I make myself not the face of it, driving traffic? And so what I did was I said, what do we do really well to generate leads now? We're really good at social media. There are some companies that generate all their traffic from affiliates, some generate it from paid ads, some do like live events and they try to convert from there. That's cool. But we do social media like probably better than anyone. We're world class at that. And I said, what if we just took our entire back end process with my social media team and instead plugged different faces into it? Right. And so what I did was I got all of my best students and coaches who I know are good on camera, who love making videos. And I said, let's create a sole channel for Future Flipper, a YouTube channel. Let's create an Instagram. Let's do all these things. And you guys are going to make all the content for it. We will do the back end. We'll post it. We'll edit it. We'll do everything. All you need to do is make videos. And the benefit for you is you're going to get so much exposure being on this. And you're going to get a lot of content that you can use on your own channel and, your own following. It's going to be great. And sure enough, the theory has worked, in 2.5 months of starting those, the YouTube's got 5,000 subscribers. The Instagram's got like 30,000 followers. And it's not me. And that's the beauty. And like, we're actually launching a podcast this week where guess who's not the host? It's not me. And so, in the end, I'm trying to really proactively remove myself, not because I want to stop doing it. I love training and teaching our students. I love our events. But like, to your point, I know I'm the single source of failure in terms of traffic for that. So how do we eliminate that perspective? Like, at the end of the day, how do we make every business I own potentially sellable? Not that I want to sell, but like build it towards that way so that I'm not needed and it can just print money.